In the heart of Patierno, the earth trembled violently as smoke billowed ominously from Vesuvius, signaling impending doom. Families gathered, fear gripping their hearts. But amidst the chaos, a 15-year-old boy named Carlo clutched a precious Eucharist, believing that something miraculous could happen. As the community united in desperate prayer, the ground shook beneath them. Would faith be enough to save them from the darkness threatening to consume their lives? But to understand how we got to this point, we need to go back to the beginning. You won't believe what happened next, but before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. The sun hung low over the sweeping landscape of Vesuvius, casting an eerie glow that served as a reminder of nature's ominous power. Its once fertile slopes now trembled with anticipation. The community of Patierno lived in the shadow of this great volcano, anxiously watching as smoke began to billow from its summit. Each passing day brought ominous rumbles that echoed through the narrow streets, filling the hearts of the townsfolk with dread. In the small houses dotting the landscape, families gathered, whispers of fear rippling through the air. Children clung to their parents, their laughter replaced by a palpable worry that clung to the fabric of their homes. Mothers sat with hands clasped tightly, their faces etched with concern. They exchanged glances filled with uncertainty, while fathers scoured the news, desperate for any sign of hope, any information that could quell their rising fears. As the initial reports of volcanic activity prompted alarms throughout the region, hysteria struck the town. The streets hummed with nervous energy, filled with preparation for the worst. Neighbors helped each other to gather their belongings, packing family heirlooms and necessities into hastily assembled bags. "What if it erupts today?" one woman murmured to her husband, her voice quaking under the weight of despair. The town square, once a place of laughter and community gatherings, became a hub of chaos as rumor and reality collided. Local officials urged an evacuation, yet many remained steadfast, clinging to their lives and memories in Patierno. They felt a stubborn pride in their connection to the land. "We will not be defeated by nature," declared one man, his voice rising over the panic. The community shared a bond that had been forged over generations. It made the thought of leaving all the more painful. Among the residents was young Carlo Acutis, just 15 years old, whose heart was intertwined with the threads of faith deep in the culture of their small town. As he watched the frantic preparations unfold, he felt a stirring within him, a calling to seek solace in the sacred, the Holy Eucharist. His family had instilled in him a profound connection to their faith, one that was both comforting and empowering. Carlo knew that in times of trial, the Eucharist was a beacon of hope. With each tremor from the volcano, Carlo sought the strength of prayer, reflecting deeply while documenting his own experience in a journal. He had devoted countless hours to researching Eucharistic miracles, and, upon hearing tales of those who had been saved through devotion, he found himself increasingly fascinated by the stories that echoed through history. There was something magical in the stories he absorbed, an inexplicable strength that had turned despair into hope. Night began to fall, and the once vibrant village fell silent, save for the distant rumble of Vesuvius. Families took to their prayers, a collective plea for safety echoing through the homes. Lanterns flickered on doorsteps, casting long shadows that danced across the cobblestones. Carlo took this moment of stillness to step outside, gazing at the looming silhouette of the volcano. Its power was both terrifying and mesmerizing. An unyielding force that commanded respect. In this stark moment of reflection, Carlo rose from his post beneath the stars, returning indoors to gather with his family. They lit a candle before the crucifix, their hands entwined in prayer. As he closed his eyes, he envisioned the miraculous stories of divine intervention he had learned. The humble trust that he needed to release his anxieties and place them into the hands of God filled his heart. However, even in this moment of fervent prayer, a sense of urgency began to creep back in. The news reports were escalating in severity. Officials announced that a major eruption could be imminent. The ground beneath seemed to tremble in agreement. Families shared tearful embraces, and elders spoke of a distant safety plan, one that perhaps no longer felt feasible. Yet amidst the anxiety, whispers of courage began to emerge, hinting at an awakening. The townspeople began to seek solace not just in material preparation, but in divine guidance. It was then that Carlo heard the name of Father Giuseppe Moscati, a local priest known for his unwavering faith and compassion. His reputation as a fearless leader became a flicker of hope among the despair. As rumors spread about Father Moscati's vision for a Eucharistic procession to call upon divine assistance, Carlo felt a flicker of inspiration igniting within him. Could there be power in faith strong enough to challenge the looming disaster? The priests, a symbol of love and protection, could lead them back into the light. For now, the anticipation of calamity hung heavy in the air, the embers of dread crackling with urgency. However, amidst the shadows cast by Vesuvius, the faintest glimmer of hope flickered, a reminder that even when surrounded by darkness and chaos, faith could rise like a flame to burn brightly. Would the courage of the clergy and the community's collective hope be enough to stand against the impending threat? Only time would unveil the truth behind the looming eruption and the miraculous possibilities that lay within their grasp. As dawn broke over Patierno, a sense of resolute determination permeated the air. The stillness, a sharp contrast to the mounting pressures of Vesuvius, seemed almost sacred. Carlo felt the weight of the day ahead as he rose from his bed, the chatter from the kitchen pulling him from his thoughts. His parents were preparing for the procession, their bodies moving in synchronized rhythm, and yet their faces betrayed a mix of worry and unwavering faith. Father Giuseppe Moscati was a beacon of hope in the community, and everyone was talking about his brave decision to lead a Eucharistic procession today despite the chaos surrounding them. Shops had temporarily closed to allow everyone to join in, and as Carlo stepped outside, he was greeted by the sight of neighbors gathering in small clusters, discussing the mission ahead. It was a touching sight. All the fear and uncertainty seemed momentarily set aside. Carlo joined the throngs of villagers assembling outside the parish, the atmosphere brimming with spirited energy. "Have you heard about Father Moscati's plan?" a local baker exclaimed, flour dusting his apron. "He believes the Eucharist will protect us from the lava." The mantra buzzed in the air, providing a comforting blanket upon which the townspeople could drape their trembling spirits. Just before the procession was set to begin, Father Moscati emerged from the church's grand entrance, his robes glimmering in the morning light. He carried the monstrance as if it were an extension of his very being, a reflection of the sacred union he cherished. The crowd hushed, their eyes filling with reverence. Here was a man so steeped in faith that he exuded tranquility amidst chaos. The priest raised his arms to address the townspeople. "Brothers and sisters," he called, his voice ringing clear, "today we gather not only to seek refuge from the volcano's wrath, but to reaffirm our faith. The Eucharist is our shield and our hope." The words stirred something deep within Carlo, igniting a longing for connection with the divine spirit as he saw the palpable impact of Father Moscati's faith on the anxious crowd. With each step they took, the throng began to feel more like one connected heartbeat. Walking the narrow streets of Patierno, overhead the sky was painted in ominous shades of gray. Anxiety loomed like a specter, but this congregation of souls demonstrated a different sort of resolve. It was a unified act of defiance against the encroaching darkness. Their feet shuffled against the cobblestones, invoking a rhythm that resonated in shared determination. As they made their way toward the outskirts of town where the sacred grounds lay, Carlo too felt emboldened. He glanced around at the faces of his neighbors, the shopkeeper, the schoolteacher, the children who played in the risky embrace of adolescence. Each and every one of them set aside uncertainties in that moment to partake in what felt like a sacred duty. The procession streamed into the fields, the distant thudding of Vesuvius a constant reminder of their precarious position. Just as they reached the designated clearing, the rumble intensified, a warning that sent shudders across the crowd. Carlo felt his heart race, but the sight of Father Moscati holding the Eucharist aloft steadied him. The priest's unwavering commitment to their cause shone brightly, even amidst Mother Nature's threat. "Let us pray," Father Moscati commanded, and the crowd fell to their knees in sync. The unity bound them together in humility, a shared sense of urgency. "We seek your protection, Lord. Shield us from the fiery rain above and guide us through this peril. We trust in your power." As the prayer swelled through the air, the surrounding scene transformed. Clouds drifted above, bursting with dark energy. Yet within their circle of faith, a fierce calm settled. The Eucharist glittered as Father Moscati raised it higher, as though calling upon the heavens to intervene. Carlo's gaze locked onto the miraculous object, the source of so much devotion. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of light erupted from the monstrance, casting rays that stretched outward, illuminating the faces surrounding Carlo. Gasps filled the air, each believer struck by the divine presence that anchored their faith. Fueled by the moment, Carlo closed his eyes tight, allowing the warmth of that glowing light to envelop him. It was as if they were transported from their fears into the embrace of grace. And just as abruptly as it began, the luminosity gave way to an awe-inspiring hush. In that silence, a sense of shared understanding blossomed within the congregation. They were all connected to something far greater than themselves. Each heartbeat a little stronger, each breath became a declaration of faith in the unseen. But then the ground quaked violently at the base of Vesuvius, shaking the villagers yearning for stability. The urgency clawed at their spirits once more. Fear swirled in tandem with faith, creating a dizzying cocktail of emotion. The fissures of the earth opened near the mountain, smoke erupting like an angry breath from the volcano. Carlo opened his eyes, and the sight of the dark cloud made his heart race, not just with fear, but also with a curious sense of determination. Father Moscati remained resolute, the Eucharist unwavering in his grip. He shouted into the roaring winds, "Be still and know that God is with us." The prayer rang out, reverberating through the fear-laden air, a bulwark against chaos. As if responding to his call, Carlo felt a surge of strength in his chest, inspiring him to stand with his fellow villagers. In the midst of trembling earth and tumultuous skies, hope coalesced into a palpable force, washing over the crowd like the softest lullaby. Together, they stood with Father Moscati, an unbroken line of faith against the tide of destruction, primed for an act of defiance that would showcase the power of belief and love. Would their unity make a difference against the roar of Vesuvius, or would it be swallowed by the darkness? Only the moments ahead would reveal the true power of their faith, one that might depart from mere belief and transform into miraculous reality. In that moment of collective resolve, the tension in the air seemed almost tangible, charging the atmosphere around them. The sky darkened further as heavy clouds swirled ominously above the procession. Yet, in the center, where Father Moscati stood with the Eucharist, a beam of light broke through, illuminating the sacred object like a radiant star. The contrast between the encroaching darkness and that divine glow created an almost surreal ambiance, a sanctuary in the eye of the storm. Carlo felt his heart beat in sync with the fervent prayers rising high, merging into an ethereal melody that filled the chasm between heaven and earth. It was as if the very fabric of reality shifted when Father Moscati lifted the Eucharist higher, thrusting it into the forefront of the gathering storm. "In this moment we unite our hearts with divine grace," he called out, his voice unwavering despite the thunder that rolled far off like a warning bell. As the tremors pulsated beneath their feet, the townsfolk clung to hope. "This is our promise," Father Moscati cried. "With the power of the Holy Eucharist, we implore the heavens for protection." Carlo's young mind, once fraught with the fear of losing everything he knew, began to transform. He thought of the miracle stories he had studied, witnessing how faith had triumphed over adversity time and again. He held on to that inspiration, letting it guide his spirit. Suddenly, a loud crackle pierced through the tumult, and the congregation gasped as lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the ancient mountain with a sense of fierce urgency. In that instant, it became clear that something profound was happening. The ground shook with an unsettling ferocity, and the air thickened with the scent of sulfur, signaling the very heartbeat of Vesuvius growing angrier. Father Moscati remained anchored in his purpose, praying fervently, and as the prayers intensified, he pressed on. "Lord, hear our plea. Cast away the darkness. Counter the destruction with your grace." The invocation seemed to rend the air, reverberating as if breaking through the barrier between their fragile lives and a mighty, unseen power. The crowd remained still, captivated by the scene unfolding before them. As if on cue, a heavy silence enveloped the procession. It was a moment pregnant with possibility, a potion of fear and hope that frazzled and exhilarated all simultaneously. Carlo felt himself caught in that dichotomy, as reality twisted, leaving him on the edge of expectation. What would happen next? Then, as if inspired by the convictions surrounding Father Moscati, a brilliant, swirling light began to emanate from the Eucharist. Like a soft glow bursting forth in the depths of night, the luminous source reached the crowd, each face illuminated, reflecting awe and wonder. "It's as if heaven has opened its gate," a voice cried out from the back, melding into the spiritual aura circulating through the townsfolk. In that sacred moment, time seemed to stretch. "Father, look!" someone shouted, pointing toward the mountain. As Carlo's gaze shifted, his breath caught in his throat. The dark tendrils of smoke that continuously belched from Vesuvius now shifted direction, swirling away from Patierno. The fiery river, whose molten streaks had once threatened to consume them, seemed to hesitate, suspended in time, before defying its own nature. It began to retract, almost retreating in response to the prayers being offered. Messengers of faith exchanged glances, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and hope. It's turning," Carlo's father mumbled, his eyes wide and filled with a glimmer of faith that had long been overshadowed by fear. An unspoken agreement settled over the crowd. Could this truly be their moment of salvation, prompted by unwavering faith? Carlo felt a warm surge of triumph alongside that mystery. It enveloped him as tightly as a comforting embrace. Tears sprang to the eyes of those gathered, laden with the turning point which their collective spirit had manifested, the power of belief igniting an impossible reality. "See how the Lord works! In unity we find our strength!" Father Moscati's voice rang out, reverberating over the mountains encircling them. As the molten lava continued to shift, the void filled with fervor, the awe of a miracle blossoming before their very eyes. Carlo's faith began to swell, fueled by the sight that unfolded. He watched as Vesuvius seemed to bow to the presence of divine love, a protective blanket wrapping its community. The townsfolk sank to their knees, their hands raised toward the Eucharist, and their hearts united as one, murmuring silent prayers in the face of wonder. And then a great stillness fell across the ground. The echoes of nature calmed, absorbing the collective hope that lingered. Interlaced with that serenity was a whisper, soft yet powerful, a direct channel to heaven. How could this be? Carlo mused within himself, the synapses of faith and reality weaving together as he grasped the significance of what he was witnessing. Under the same sky, two realities collided. Their request, so pure and whole, had caught the attention of the divine. The miracle was both a gift and a transformation, a testament to the intertwined destinies of all gathered there. Here they would face the trials together. Their love and faith had become catalysts for an extraordinary intervention. As the climactic moment began to fade into memory, Preserve the original language of the text, his features serene, yet imbued with world weariness. "Today we have been blessed," he proclaimed, the crowd rising to their feet in spontaneous applause, a symphony of voices harmonizing in praise. The walls between the natural and supernatural had paled, bridging the gap and allowing them to witness the touch of God, an act far beyond what they had dared to hope for. The eruption was stilled, the menace now quelled by a force stronger than mere geology. Carlo, heart racing, was swept away by the enormity of the experience that shuddered through him. He realized that this moment would forever shape the contours of his young life. The miracle had succeeded not just in diverting the lava, but in galvanizing a community. And in that unity, illuminated by his grace, every person in Patierno had gained a newfound strength to face whatever lay ahead. Would the echoes of this event resound well beyond those fleeting moments? The certainty was a promise. It was the direct invitation to a life steeped in faith, a life that Carlo would bear witness to, intertwined with miracles still to come. The days that followed the miracle of Patierno left the community buzzing with newfound energy and purpose. The haunting experiences of fear and anxiety seemed to dissolve into the ethers, replaced by a resilient spirit woven together through the fabric of faith. Carlo found himself at the center of this metamorphosis, a young boy transformed into a chronicler of hope. As he walked the familiar streets, he observed the changes in his neighbors. The baker, once shadowed by uncertainty, now shared tales of renewed faith as he crafted bread that felt lighter, fairy-like in its texture. Families began gathering not just at their homes but in the town square, where laughter floated through the air, mingling with visions of faith that stirred dormant dreams awake. It was a shift that permeated every interaction. A testament to the miracle they had witnessed. Word spread beyond the village, reaching ears who hungered for stories of hope. Letters poured into the rectory, people expressing their desire to learn more about how their faith could mirror the steadfastness demonstrated by the townsfolk. Carlo felt a burgeoning responsibility burning within him, a fire fueled by gratitude. It intrigued him to think how many could find solace or inspiration in their own tribulations through this shared story. The townsfolk decided to hold a gathering, organizing a celebration commemorating their miraculous experience. They adorned the square with lanterns that flickered with the hues of the sunset, symbolizing warmth and light amidst the encroaching darkness. As evening approached, Carlo stood amid the preparations, his heart racing with excited anticipation. He was determined to deliver his account with authenticity, wanting every note of fear and faith captured in the retelling, each thread of their collective experience woven into a broader tapestry. When the day of the celebration arrived, Patierno swelled with life, the vibrant atmosphere starting at dawn and growing to a peak as night enveloped the village like a soft embrace. People painted their homes with messages of gratitude and prayers, inviting all who weren't residents to join them in acknowledgement of the miracle that had transformed their lives. Carlo stood surrounded by familiar faces, friends, family, and neighbors, all beaming as they exchanged shared anticipations. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the square, Father Moscati took center stage. His presence exuded a calming influence, one that anchored the spirits of the gathering crowd. "Beloved members of our community," he began, his voice resonant, "tonight is not only a celebration of the miracle we witnessed, but a testament to our resilience and faith." The crowd erupted into applause. And Carlo felt a swell of pride. Their community had transformed into a living testament of divine grace, manifesting not just in their stories, but in how they lived and breathed together. There was a connectedness, a sacred thread binding every individual, amplified by the embrace of shared belief. Father Moscati continued, recounting the morning of the miracle with vivid details, invoking the feelings of trepidation and fear that had gripped them. The crowd listened intently, reliving those tense moments, their hearts steeped in gratitude as he reached the crescendo of his narrative, the moment that changed everything when the Eucharist illuminated the sky. Then it was Carlo's turn. He stepped forward nervously, the lanterns dancing light upon his youthful face, his heart pounding. With every eye upon him, a sense of gravity gripped his features. Holding his notes tightly, he took a deep breath and began to speak, the words flowing from him like a sacred transcript of hope. On that fateful morning we gathered together, trembling yet united in faith. We witnessed the power of the Eucharist, transforming not just our fate, but the essence of who we were, he recounted. As he spoke, he watched people lean in, their eyes reflecting a curious flame of hope and belief rekindled within them. This miracle changed the river of our lives forever, a testimony that showed us how love can conquer even the fiercest of storms. The crowd erupted in applause at his passionate delivery, richness painting the walls of the square with their yearning. Carlo felt himself flushing with warmth from their response, gratefulness filling his chest as he concluded. Let this miracle be a reminder that we are never alone, that faith can connect us, empower us, and guide us through our darkest hours. Together we can be architects. Cries of affirmation followed him as he stepped back into the fold of his community.
Feeling their energy pulsating through the fabric of the air, reconnecting each of them as fellow pilgrims on a journey of faith. And in that moment, surrounded by the love of shared experience, Carlo realized he had not just become a witness to a miracle, he had become a vessel, bridging hope across the realms of fear. As the celebration drew to a close, prayers were uttered, songs came to life, and toasts of love filled the air. Lanterns lifted into the night sky, each one a beacon of hope, carrying the stories and prayers of Patierno beyond the village. Carlo watched them ascend into the darkness, imagining them crossing paths with other kindred spirits yearning for solace and strength. In the weeks that followed, the community continued to reverberate with the echoes of their miraculous experience. News media reached out to feature their story. Visitors flocked to Patierno in search of faith, curious to unearth the story behind the miracle. Posters were hung in the village of their triumph over Vesuvius, inviting others to visit and witness the spirit of faith alive and thriving. Each new person that arrived carried with them an open heart, prompting invitations. Carlo was determined to share their story, one person at a time. He understood that their individual struggles and experiences were the brushstrokes of a far larger narrative, a tapestry of courage, resilience, and unwavering faith that transcended boundaries and connected souls. As time ebbed, Carlo folded back into the rhythms of everyday life, school, family gatherings, and moments with friends. Yet the days of fear and uncertainty formed bittersweet memories layered with gratitude. The transformation that blossomed throughout Patierno was not just a story to archive, but a living testament to the intertwining threads of faith that could reinvigorate the lives of those willing to believe. Through it all,
Carlo remained steadfast in sharing the essence of what had emerged from beneath the shadow of Vesuvius. Each retelling not only illuminated the miracle, but also nurtured the faith that sustained them, a legacy that echoed the sacred promise whispered long before the eruption, a reminder that light could dispel darkness, that even the most uncertain heart could find strength in unity through love and belief. As the weeks turned into months, the miracle of Patierno continued to resonate deeply within the hearts of those who had witnessed it. With the stories of courage and divine intervention now ingrained in the village's identity, the celebration around the miraculous event grew into something more profound. Carlo felt a sense of purpose rising within him, igniting the desire to keep the flame of their experience alive. On a sunny afternoon, Carlo gathered with a group of friends from the village at the town square. The air was thick with laughter and the aroma of freshly baked bread wafting from nearby bakeries. Conversations flowed seamlessly, transitioning from school tales to reflections on the miracle that had brought them together. "Do you remember how we all felt that day?" Lucia, a friend from school, asked, her eyes sparkling. "It was terrifying, and yet, somehow, it felt so right when we prayed together." Carlo smiled, warmed by her words. "It was like we were one heartbeat, all of us connected. I think that's what made the difference. We believed together." Their discussions sparked the idea of organizing a commemorative event in the village. "We should celebrate Unity Day every year," suggested Marco, his enthusiasm infectious. "It can be a day to share our stories with everyone who comes to visit, our experiences, our hope, so that they understand what faith can do." The group rallied around the idea, excited to create a tradition that transcended their own lives while leaving a legacy for future generations. They envisioned a day filled with music, storytelling, and communal prayer, inviting visitors to share in their collective journey. Their passion became contagious, and soon plans for Unity Day took shape, setting the date just a few months ahead to allow time for preparation. As the news spread, the village buzzed with energy. The townspeople joined in, offering assistance with decorations, food, and organizing activities. The church became a hub of creativity, with colorful banners being crafted and invitations being sent out far and wide. Excitement filled the streets, with everyone recalling their own stories intertwined in the shared experience of faith. As the appointed day drew near, Carlo felt a deep exhilaration. "This is our chance to give back," he told his family one evening after dinner. "We can open our arms to others and show them that faith is a living force. It's not just about what happened to us, it's about what happens when we believe together." When the day of Unity Day finally arrived, Patierno transformed into a vibrant gathering space. Families set up stalls filled with homemade dishes and local crafts, each item hand-picked or prepared with love. The church bells rang out melodically, welcoming visitors from near and far. The once quiet streets now overflowed with laughter, music, and the melding of voices echoing the village's history. Father Moscati delivered an opening prayer, his voice resonating with warmth and conviction. "Today, we gather not just to commemorate an event, but to embrace the powerful gift of unity. May our stories inspire and uplift those who seek hope in their own lives." As the day unfolded, visitors were treated to performances by local musicians, poetry readings, and storytelling sessions that carried the essence of the miracle deep into the hearts of all who listened. Carlo navigated through the throngs of people, exchanging stories, laughter, and heartwarming embraces. He felt the pulse of Patierno flowing through everyone, a unified heartbeat that echoed the essence of their extraordinary journey. One of the highlights of the festivities was a designated storytelling circle where people from all walks of life shared how the events in Patierno had influenced them. Among them was a young woman from Naples named Alessia, whose voice trembled as she recounted her struggles with despair. "I came here searching for a spark of hope," she said, her eyes glistening. "Your story has given me faith that I thought I had lost forever." Carlo, filled with emotion, felt a deep connection to Alessia's experience. He realized that the miracle extended far beyond Patierno, reaching others who needed love, strength, and reassurance. Their narrative had become a lifeline that transcended limitations, connecting people through the universal threads of faith and resilience. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden hue across the sky, Carlo felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Standing amid the stories, laughter, and love that enveloped the village, he understood that their journey was not merely one of survival, but a shared existence rooted in faith, one that would radiate through time. With the final activity of Unity Day, lighting candles and sending them afloat in the river, Carlo realized the significance of each flickering light. The warm glow floated gently downstream, each accent of light a shared prayer, a hope soaring toward the heavens. The community stood hand in hand at the river's edge, watching as their wishes transformed into beacons that would illuminate the paths of others who would follow in their footsteps. In those heartwarming moments, Carlo felt the presence of something greater, an energy flowing through the collective heart of Patierno. He knew without a doubt that the miracle was not a singular event engraved in history, but an ongoing testament to the unwavering faith that had altered their lives. Each year, the legacy of Unity Day would act as both a reminder of their triumph over adversity and an invitation to others to dwell in the light of hope. As the candles shimmered in the night, glistening among the shadows, Carlo smiled, whispering a quiet prayer. He understood that their journey had just begun, and the threads of faith would continue to weave their stories together, enabling new connections to flourish across the world. In that sacred union, Carlo saw the beauty of life itself, a never-ending tapestry of hearts bound together, marching forward in faith, love, and the ever-present pursuit of miracles. As the years flowed by, the spirit of Unity Day firmly rooted itself in the identity of Patierno. Each passing year saw the celebration grow, an evolving tapestry of love, hope, and shared narratives that enveloped the village in warmth and strength. Carlo, now a young man, brooded over the transformation of his life and the lives around him. Their journey had reshaped not only their community, but also how they viewed the world beyond their borders. In the evenings, Carlo often gathered with friends at the town square, where laughter intermingled with the aroma of food from nearby homes. These gatherings became opportunities to reflect on the past, as well as to share future dreams. He recognized how deeply they had all been touched, not just by the miracle of Vesuvius, but by the bonds they had formed in its aftermath. One cool spring afternoon, as flowers began to bloom, Carlo walked to the church where Father Moscati was preparing for the upcoming Unity Day. The curé stood by the altar, an air of tranquility emanating from his presence. "Carlo," he beckoned, "come here, I have something for you." Curious, Carlo approached him. On the altar lay a well-worn journal, filled with colorful drawings and precious words. "This is the collection of stories from our villagers and visitors. I want you to help me put together something special for Unity Day, something that captures the spirit of everything we have experienced." The weight of responsibility settled upon Carlo as he accepted the journal, a mix of excitement and gratitude surging within him. "This is incredible, Father," he exclaimed. "I'll make sure to honor each story, weaving them into the legacy that unites us." As the days flew by, Carlo immersed himself in the task, reading tales of struggle and triumph, resilience and faith. The stories painted vibrant pictures of how people's lives had transformed due to the spirit of Patierno. There were testimonies of people who had once faced despair but found solace in the warmth of community, each account interlacing with the others, showing a ripple effect of faith that reached across generations. Carlo found himself particularly moved by a story from a nurse named Sophia, who had visited Patierno after the miracle. In her letter, she expressed how witnessing the townsfolk's hope reignited her passion for healing. "Your light was a reminder that I am not alone in my struggles. Together, we can share the burden of healing, turning pain into purpose." Inspired, Carlo decided that this year's Unity Day would not just celebrate the miracle that had occurred, but also honor the extraordinary stories of healing and connection that had blossomed since. He envisioned setting up spaces where visitors could share their experiences and contribute to a new legacy that extended beyond the bounds of their village. The weekend of Unity Day arrived, and the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Villagers and visitors alike poured into the square, a swirl of colors and voices intermingling. Banners adorned the pathways, each one adorned with messages of hope and gratitude. As sunlight streamed through the canopy overhead, Carlo felt the weight of their shared experiences enveloping him, a living testament to the miracle of Patierno. Father Moscati welcomed everyone with his gentle presence, grounding the gathering in a prayer that resonated with the heartbeats of those gathered. Then it was Carlo's turn to take center stage, and he felt an electric pulse shivering through him, the call to empower this community of stories. Today, Carlo began, his voice steady and clear, we celebrate the miracle that brought us together. But more than that, we honor the resilience that flows through our community, the kindness that remains ever present in our encounters, and the stories that remind us we are never truly alone. With that declaration, he invited attendees to share their own tales, creating a ripple of emotion that coursed through the crowd. Each story recounted, each tear shed, and each heartfelt laugh became a precious note in the symphony of their shared spirit. As dusk began to cloak the square in shades of indigo, the time came for the candles to be lit. Emily, a young girl from the village, stood beside Carlo with her tiny hands clutching a candle. "Can I make a wish?" she whispered. "Always," Carlo smiled warmly, directing her toward the water's edge. As the candles floated downstream, glimmers of light sparkled across the surface of the water, sending forth their wishes into the world. These candles will find their way to others who need hope, just like we did. Standing shoulder to shoulder with friends and strangers alike, Carlo reflected on how far they had come since those harrowing days. The miracle was no longer just a memory, but a living example of what faith could create. Each flickering candle illuminated a profound narrative, one that intertwined countless hearts, relentlessly pursuing love, connection, and the miraculous. As the night deepened and laughter echoed through the village, Carlo felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over him. In that sacred union of faith and hope,
He understood that the miraculous journey of Patierno was an ongoing testament, a legacy that would forever inspire hearts and ignite spirits, guiding them onward through the beautiful tapestry of life. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. Thanks for watching.